stretch goals. So the sad truth about the brain is it's a very lazy organ. If I don't have to do something differently, I don't want to, because it saves energy to do the same old thing. We call these habits. This is why, so here's the only useful thing you can take home from this, which is when you get home tonight, you can tell your spouse or whatever, who's always nagged you about dropping your dirty clothes on the floor or not doing the dishes, say, honey, I'd like to change, but I have a lazy brain, and, you know. So it's hard to change. So when we set up stretch goals, then it motivates us to find the resources, cognitive resources, but also social resources to meet those goals, right? So there's got to be a reason for us to engage with other people, right? It's not just business as usual. So it's setting up these concrete goals. So in the book, I talk about stress. Stress is not a bad thing. Chronic stress that you can't get rid of, that keeps you up at night, that's bad. But what we call challenge stress is really good, right? This is going down the black diamond slope. This is, you know, doing something new you haven't done. So these stretch goals are great ways to set up challenges to reach higher performance. But those goals have to be concrete, they have to have a clear endpoint, and when they're met as a group, then you have an opportunity to build ties of trust. So think about the military, right? Why are people marching in boot camp? Or you have Humvees. But the marching is about entrainment of your actions with other people's actions, right? It's getting in sync with other people, not only physically, but neurologically, right? So think of setting up these expectations, these stretch goals. And then the neuroscience has a clear implication, which is if I've just finished a big 3-month project, the last thing I want to do, if you finish that on Friday, is on Monday, give your team another huge project. You need some refractory time. You need time to celebrate a little bit. Take a break. Give the team tickets to go do something fun. Go see a Rangers game. Right? Do something that says, hey, we recognize that you worked your butt off. Hey, for this week, go home early. Catch up on email. Do some other things. And then next week we'll hit you with another project. So expectation important. By the way, the order of this matters. So so the third factor is called yield. So this is allowing people to choose how they execute a project. Right? So once I've trained you, then if I have a trusted culture, then I want to allow you to decide how you execute the project. So two things are going to happen. One is you're going to get mistakes. And as leaders, we hate mistakes, right? I want to be in a mistake-free environment. But if there's no mistakes, there's also no innovation. So if every time Seth does a project, he does it the same way, then it's just status quo, and maybe that's fine. But when Kathy does the project, she does it slightly differently because I've yielded control over the project to her. She gets buy-in, now it's her project, and now during the ovation, I get to stop and say, hey, how'd you do that project? Right? Oh, we did this slightly differently. We found a way we can do this. Right? So we want to share that information broadly. So this is this continuous improvement in business process. So it also means, from a brain perspective, you don't want to punish people who make mistakes. Right? As a leader, you need to have some risk management. You need backstops, right? I love the daily huddle. I love the standing daily huddle because then we get to work right away. And weekly one-on-ones, I want to set clear milestones for expectations, know where you're going. But I definitely don't want to let you, micromanage you to the extent that you're just a robot and you're just doing whatever. So I want to give you some discretion on how you do it. Otherwise, your burnout certainly is a sign of trust if I, once you're trained, give you control of that project. What we do in my group is we rotate leaders. So for each project, there's a different team leader. We build a team around them, so everyone gets a chance to run that project. And running a project is sometimes a pain in the butt. It's more work, right? So we move that around, so everyone gets that experience and some cross-training. And where I live in California, a lot of people in the tech industry have monthly congratulations, you screwed up celebrations. I would call it an ovation, right? So when I talk about what's the biggest mistake we made this month, and what do we learn from that? So again, if you're not going to celebrate mistakes, if you're going to punish people explicitly or implicitly, they're going to stop making mistakes, which also means they're going to stop innovating. So you can't have it both ways. Okay, once you've gone through the first 3 steps, the next logical step is enabling self-management, right? So we call this transfer. So I want to actually transfer control over the execution of the project totally to a team. So we worked with a number of companies like Morningstar Tomato was written up in HBR a couple years ago, Zappos, that have self-managed teams. So you decide what project you want to work on. You decide which working group you want to work on. Semco in Brazil is another company that's self-managed. So you cut out layers of management. People are much more, this is trust with accountability. You're accountable to do that project. You're accountable to your teammates. You're accountable to the leaders. But now you're deciding where you want to allocate your time. What's most effective. So in my group, again, we say, okay, we got this new funded project. Who's interested in this? Who has time? Who wants to take this thing on? And it could be, gosh, I really always wanted to work on, I'm making this up now, database management. But I have some training. I'd love to do this project. I have time in my schedule. Can we build a team around me? Sure, that sounds great. Now it also means if that team's not making progress on these clear milestones, then we're going to swap out a team member. So as long as we have this notion that, sure, you can take on this project, but we've got to get clear milestones. So there's still a leadership component here, absolutely. And but it's much more of a coaching model, right? So I'm the coach, I'm setting the goals, we have clear goalposts, and I want to help you be successful and run those plays. Okay, so again, full buy-in. This is psychology called high locus of control. So now I'm really controlling my work life, and that makes me happier. Okay, one of the factors that inhibits oxytocin release and therefore trust is high levels of chronic stress. And one of the stressors we find in experiments is a lack of transparency. So I don't know where we're going. That's really hard for me to plan my time. It's hard for me to make good decisions. And further, if I don't know why we're doing what we're doing, then I have a sense that I might get whipsawed when the rationale changes. So telling people where we're going, why we're doing what we're doing, and listening, so two-way communication from a leadership perspective, reduces a lot of that stress and allows you to open the book. So a lot of really interesting companies, Trader Joe's, Whole Foods, will share quarterly profit and loss statements with their employees and then give them classes so they can actually understand them. So for Whole Foods, for example, they sometimes have to close stores, right? They open too many, so it's not profitable. Well, they know that, and actually within Whole Foods, each department is run as its own little mini unit. So you run that department, you're making decisions on what to buy, what to sell, where to stock. And you can only do that if you know what the other departments are doing, what suppliers are you using, what are you guys putting in the fronts and the end caps, right? So we need all that information to make good decisions if we're going to have these self-managed units. And we've got to know how the store is doing overall, right? So if Kevin's division, his department, produce is losing money, then we've got to talk about why you're losing money, how we can help, because you lose enough money, we're all out of a job. So again, this transparency helps build this teamwork, where now we're essentially creating owners from employees because we're all involved in creating value for the community. Last is, C is for caring. For some reason, I think we've been sold this bill of goods that, when you're at work, I don't want to form relationships with my employees, right? I don't want to fraternize with the, but we're social creatures. This mechanism for engaging with other people is very evolutionarily old. So caring is intentionally building relationships with other people. So it doesn't mean people don't know who the boss is, but it does mean that I need to be invested in you as a human being, not as a human resource. I'm not a fan of the word human resource departments. I don't know what human resource is. It sounds like a machine to me. I do know what humans are, and I'd really like to engage with the humans. And if I'm going to be an effective team member, I've got to recognize that you have emotions, you have a personal life, you have stresses in which you may not perform perfectly every day. And that's what humans are. We're imperfect. And so I think once you're invested in the human being and not in that human resource, then it changes the way you manage people. So, for example, talk about this in a minute, but many places in Silicon Valley will keep registers of former employees. So I really want to know, so if I have an employee who goes, I have a former grad student who works for Facebook now. Her dream job could be happier, and I got a person at Facebook, and we just did a project for Facebook. That's wonderful because she knows the resources we have. So I want you to go elsewhere, right? So I want to have that conversation with you because I'm invested in you as a human being, right? Not as a human capital. So our human capital is replaceable. Human beings are not replaceable. They have innate value themselves. So here's an easy way to do this. we go to work and you say, oh, hi Daisy, how are you? Right? Just change that and just articulate the emotion you see in someone's face. Say, hi Daisy, look, fill in the blank. Sad, happy, tired, worried. And then we have a different conversation, which is, gosh, why are you so tired? Oh, it's got a puppy and it's, okay, got a puppy. So now we have this kind of human conversation about something as opposed to just this sort of functional, are you doing stuff for me today? So, or it could be, I've seen people they're just not there. They're stressed out. They haven't slept. So I have a kid sick. Say, do you need to be here today? Like, if your team's working and you guys are making progress, why don't you go home and then come back tomorrow when you actually can focus? I'd much rather have you do that. I don't care about the vacation stuff. I just don't care about that. I care about getting stuff done. If I care about getting stuff done, then I should be interested in having you, right, working at your peak performance. It also means from a leadership perspective, you've got to be open and show your own emotions too. Like, hey, I'm having a tough day today. I'm going to be cranky or doing the best I can. Okay. The next component, second to last component, I call invest. This is consistent with the last component, which is from a performance perspective. When people have a sense of growth, they're going to perform better. So I'm advancing both professionally and personally. And the personal part is also important because these are human beings, they're not a piece of human capital. So if you're following this sequence that I've laid out, then I don't need to do the annual review with you, which is backwards looking. Because I'm giving you feedback all the time on your performance. I can sit and talk about growth opportunities. So we created something we call the whole person review, which sits once a year and talks about where you want to be. And I like to ask really provocative questions with that, which is, for example, am I helping you get your next job? Let's talk about that. Where do you want to be? And maybe the next job's here, maybe the next job is not here, but again, from my perspective, I'm happy either way because I'm invested in you. I want to make sure you're growing professionally. Second, how's your family? Is your spouse happy? Are your kids doing well? I don't want someone in my office pulling their hair out going, I gotta quit because my wife's gonna leave me if I don't move back to Chicago. I'd rather know that in advance. Hey, we have an office in Chicago. You want to be there because your family's there? Let's try to make that happen, right? That's a much better conversation to be forward-looking. And then lastly, what I call spiritual growth. Whatever that means to people, besides work and family, what else do you care about, right? You love sailing or you love running. Do you have time to do that? If you don't have time to do that, any of those three components is not balanced in your life, eventually you're going to be frustrated at work, you're not going to perform well. So to make sure you have reasonable time off, you're doing something that helps you grow as a human being, does something good for the world. So anyway, once you have this system in place where I'm giving you constant feedback in a coaching model, then I can look at forward-looking reviews and create an environment where you can really grow, create a lot of runway for you to grow at least, and create an opportunity for you to really be invested in our organization as a place you can thrive. Okay, lastly is natural. So this is from a leadership perspective. A very effective way to induce oxytocin release is to show your vulnerabilities. And so if you're a leader, you're not omniscient, you're not omnipotent, and I think we ask too much sometimes. And people know everything. Say, I don't know stuff. Yeah. So, let me ask Seth about he's a lawyer, really ask him how to do this kind of thing. I know Kevin's an expert in tax accounting, I guess. Yeah. And so, so I have a tax question, Kevin's the guy to go to, right? So I don't know anything about tax accounting at all. I have no idea. So, right, I don't have to know everything if I'm in a leadership position, right? What I need to do is set goals, staff things, make sure we're hitting those goals, make everyone else successful around me. Herb Kelleher of Southwest Airlines was great. He spent a lot of time on the front lines, talk to everybody, be open to listen to people, toss baggage, serve drinks. Right? He knew his business from the get-go and put on funny hats and jump around and make people happy. But this can be fun, right? But we got to hit these goals. We got to be better than everybody else because they're all trying to take us down. So a lot of this is really building camaraderie within the company, not competition within people in the company, but competition towards the outside folks. So again, the sort of end run example is rank and yank. I'm gonna pit you guys against each other. And fear is a very good short-term motivator, but a very poor long-term motivator. So, if you're gonna get fired from this high-paid job for not making the numbers, at some point, either undermine other people or make up the numbers, or Okay, when we look at those 8 factors and relate them to organizational trust, they explain 100% of the variation in trust. So there's no other factors we need to look at than those categories. And when I am enthused about what we're doing, the team I'm working for, then it's easy to provide great customer service because I'm doing what I want to do anyway, right? I'm doing something that's important. As I said earlier in the intro, I put this picture up for Nora.
I'll give you some photos of my own children.
There you
so
go,
you can
but
integrate
even
them
cuter
into
than this
your-
little thing.
I know.
Anyway, there's an interesting implication I said earlier, which is when you have trust and this sense of, we call transcendent purpose. This is, I use the word transcendent to differentiate from the transactional purpose, which is the day-to-day how you do stuff, which is very important. Transcendent purpose is why you exist at all. This comes out of Deming's work and Peter Drucker's work. I'm a faculty at Claremont with Peter for 10 years before he died. And the only reason any organization exists, for-profit, non-profit, government, is to improve lives, right? That's the only reason customers are paying for your services, is because you improve their life in some way. So companies that embrace that, and this reaches out to marketing as well, that live this purpose, is very motivating, right? So I understand that I'm in an industry, I'm in a business that is improving people's lives, and I live that every day. That's super motivating. So it's got to be a lived culture. It can't just be like signs on the wall. So the book is